So I don't even, I was going to say, let me start with a little introduction of CLASS, the Consortium of Lake Area Senior Services. Has been around for over a decade and has been at times a loose group of folks that care about seniors in the White Bear Lake area. Started from that core and over the last 4 or 5 years has grown to a larger group with a membership base and with a full board and a website and all sorts of other networking options. I've been on the board for about 4 or 5 years, and we have kind of adopted as our directions that we look at in the overall area of senior services. We look at age-friendly initiatives, at dementia-friendly initiatives. We look at housing, and we look at transportation. I came in as Micah is organizes people to support affordable housing, and there's quite a bit of need for affordable senior housing. Scott Olson, who's who I am co-president with, and who actually was the president throughout COVID, and thank you, Scott, for holding that, is with NewTracks, which does transportation. But it's neither of us today. Today is Julia Wolf. Julia is the planning specialist, is a planning specialist for the St. Paul Ramsey Public Health Department. And she works on healthy aging and healthy communities. Unless there's anything else, Scott, we could probably just turn it over to Julia. Scott, Kitty, Kate, there's a number of other folks here who are on our board, but we're here mostly to listen to Julia.
Hi, everybody. As John mentioned, my name is Julia Wolf, and I lead the Healthy Aging Initiative at St. Paul Ramsey County Public Health, and the Healthy Aging Initiative is within the Healthy Communities Division there. So John and Scott asked me to come and talk about some of the things that I do. So I'm going to pull up my list because I'd forget. So the Healthy and Aging Initiative was created to coordinate, convene, and connect. So I'm not a service provider. The mission is to partner with residents and organizations to improve the health and well-being of older adults. Our goal, my goal, because I am the initiative, is to reduce health and racial disparities for one of the largest growing demographics in Ramsey County by identifying and examining trends, program availability, cultural and community needs, and gaps in services. So because public health is about prevention, that's what I'm about. Usually always when people are in long-term care and maybe needing Katie's services, that's sort of beyond my realm because I'm interested in prevention. So some of the things that I've done back whenever we were doing comp plans, I reviewed comp plans for the county and the city to make sure that they were incorporating aging in the ways that they should and could. And then recently I was asked to, excuse me, help evaluate RFPs for case managed for senior services, which is not part of my division. They're doing direct services. I put together weekly and monthly emails. The weekly email is a, excuse me, resources. Here's what's going on. I just sent one out today that was, here's where you can get a third or a second booster shot, housing information, grant information, those kinds of things. And then the monthly emails are less urgent. That's the digest, and it includes news or articles or conferences that are coming up in 3 or 4 months or something. I have a pretty significant email list. So 2 things. One is if you are interested in being on my email list, drop your info in the chat box. The other thing is if you want to publicize anything you're working on and you want people to come, I have a mailing list of more than 200 people, mostly across Ramsey County, but some people certainly beyond that. So I do focus on Ramsey County, but one of the other things I do is coordinate these networking groups. And they're based on what participants want. They started as geographical groups and they have morphed. So there was one in Como Falcon Heights, and the group said they wanted to join together and to do have educational speakers or informational speakers come. So it's every 2 months and at noon on Wednesdays. And last month, we had someone from Elderly Waiver come and talk about how people qualify and what waivers are and all of those things. And next in May, we're going to have the person who is coordinating the service centers for Ramsey County, and I'll show you that part in a second. Another thing is the healthy aging events. So I was at a health fair, I want to say in Shoreview. Anyway, and it was one of those, tables and flyers, and that's great information. And it's a great way to connect with people. It's also not particularly how I learn. I'm just not someone who's going to sit and read something. So I thought, why don't we coordinate a health fair that is beyond a health fair, that is like a conference we would go to with breakout sessions. Those have been, the goal was for people to leave those breakout sessions with concrete tools and skills. People don't care about the prevalence of diabetes in Ramsey County. What they care about is what's the serving size they should be using. Because of that, we limited tabling. That's a whole different thing, but these events were co-created with community. I have become increasingly uncomfortable with, even though I use it sometimes, with the word input, because to me, that implies that I have this thing, right? Our white supremacist system has this thing we've created, and what do you think about it? Which is not justice. And it's not my bent as a trained anthropologist, and it's certainly not what public health is about. So there have been 3 of them, one in Rondo, one in the Roseville area, and one with the Native American community. Each time, those started with me going to the community and saying, are you interested in this? Great. Here's some possible topics for the breakout sessions. What would you like to have as the breakout sessions? And what I love about these was they were all 3 different based on what the community that partnered with us. In Rondo, they looked at the list of topics and said, we want seated exercise. Awesome. When we went and did the one in Fairview, the 2 groups I talked to said they wanted balance. So the fire department was involved in that planning, and so they provided the fall and fire prevention. And then the Native American community wanted 2 different things, which was arthritis self-care and funeral planning, because they didn't necessarily want their kids making the decision about what was going to happen to their bodies when they die, whether they were going to go back to the reservations or not. And everything changed based on community, the names, the time of day, everything. And I love that, because that's kind of how it's supposed to be. So everybody was interested in brain health. Everybody, each time, all 3. That was the one that everybody said. So some of the other partners that we work with, AARP, Trellis, Area Agency on Aging, Hallie Q. Brown Community Center, Ling Bloomston, Roseville Fire, Fairview Community Center. So we didn't just partner with community members, we also partnered with other folks that are working in the community, trying to make life better for older folks. The next thing that I am part of is the Age Friendly Partnership in Ramsey County. And I want to be clear that that is separate from the Healthy Aging Initiative, which is my job, which includes lots of things. The Age Friendly Partnership is not a county initiative. It is a community and county collaboration. So we don't run it. It is led by community. There's our chairs. I'm a co-chair. There's a co-chair who's a service provider and a co-chair who's an elder in the Hamlin Midway, Lexington area. So we have all kinds of folks at that table. We are absolutely looking for more, because the more people at the table, the better. So let me explain that a little bit. So the goal of that initiative is to lessen ageism in the county, enhance Ramsey County's livability, and reduce racial and health disparities as we all age in this community. And I want to say too, because as I talk about this, it can be confusing. Sometimes I talk about livability and sometimes I talk about age friendly. They are, for the most part, the same thing. Age friendly is sort of a subset of livability, but what I love about using the word livable is that it recognizes that aging is a lifelong process, right? When I was out in the world presenting, I would say to folks, who here is aging? And nobody raised their hands. And I thought, if we're doing it right, we're all aging. At this point in our lives, sadly, most of us know people who aren't aging anymore. And so the livable piece really recognizes that it's not just serving older people, that it is, intergenerational things, and that there's no clear division between older adults and less older adults. So the goal is a livable community. And what that means is a place where older adults can age in healthy and active ways, where older adults have a community where they feel safe and have affordable and accessible housing and transportation options. It has some supportive community features and services that enable engagement to increase connections. So active and healthy. The role of the group is to be, I don't know about an advisory council. There are several phases. It's the World Health Organization took their 8 domains of livability, and AARP developed a program around that. And there's, processes, and this you have to do this year, and this you have to do this year. So I'm not going to explain all of that. Anyway, I'm not going to explain all of it. I would bore you to tears. But the goal is, it's a county partnership, and we're focusing on what the county can do differently. We don't have the right, nor would we want to go to the cities and say, you'll do this. What we're looking at is what's going on in the county and how we can make Ramsey County more age friendly. Then as we, move along in this process, we're trying to engage the cities and say, here's the things we're coming up with. And if you would like to incorporate these things, great. Or if you want to go through an age friendly process for your own community, that's great too. So we'll be making suggestions when we're further along in this process to the Board of Commissioners and to the cities. The goals of the age-friendly partnership are to increase the proactiveness in meeting the needs of older adults, and to create policies, programs, and services that keep healthy aging and livability at the forefront of all the planning across the county. Because oftentimes, like many other topics, it's a sidebar. And so one of the goals of this group is to have that be less of a sidebar, and aging should be considered in every decision that's made in the county. So some of those things will be fostering collaboration between local governments, nonprofit agencies, academic institutions, businesses, and the impacts can be on projects, but they can also be on systems and policies. Again, if we're doing it right, that's what happens. So some examples, changing the view of older people as passive users of systems. For instance, how many community boards that make policy How many people over 65 get invited to be on those boards? And yet those policies affect people who are over the age of 65 and younger. I have no, like, you have to be over 65 for me to reach out and be part of this process, but develop new ways of communicating between, parts of the county or other things. And then there are some services, and I'm pulling most of these from other areas that have done age-friendly work. Because we're not at the point yet. We're coming up to the point of creating our action plan, but we're not at that point yet. So for instance, in Texas, when you are over 65, you pay less in property taxes. So that's one of the policies that we hope to impact, or others. Some of the other really specific things, the programs, have been that one community developed a way to share concerns, what we might call complaints, but that's not what we're calling them. But things that people observe and things that people have trouble with. So how is there a way, or to create a way to get that channeled into the county? One community created a language specific navigation phone line. So if people who were Spanish needed help navigating the transportation system, there was someone who would answer that phone who was a service provider who was Spanish speaking. I love that one. Doing tours of bus and train systems, partnering with local shelters for animal visits or for older folks to come visit the animals, intergenerational workshops on a whole bunch of different topics, increasing mentorship opportunities. So phase one, year one, was creating this team, which continues to grow. We have some Black, Indigenous, people of color representation, but always wanting more. And we want everybody from every area. We have Medicare consultants, and we have the fire department, and we have foundations, and we have health providers, and all kinds of folks there. And like I said, the more people, the better. So we are, the phase two was creating a current state assessment of Ramsey County. How age-friendly is Ramsey County now? Because we're not going to go in and say, we need to make Ramsey County age-friendly. Ramsey County and the Board of Commissioners have been incredible. This county has a lot of things that make it age-friendly. We just want to increase those, build on those. So the current state assessment was based on the community health assessments that Ramsey County, that hospitals, all those things have to do every 5 years, 10 years, I should know that. And it looked at both the strengths and the gaps. And so our next piece is the advisory team has been meeting and working on those two things. And now we're going to be looking for groups that already exist of seniors, and possibly developing groups, taking to them this current state and saying, here's the things you identified. Not surprisingly, the top 3 things that people identified were what? Housing, transportation, and social connection. So we're going to take these 2 groups of older folks and say, so here's the things that you identified. What are the specific things that you see as problems or that you would like to change? Of course, we can't guarantee that we're going to do it all, but so then phase 3 is going to be developing those community partnerships, and then creating an action plan based on those partnerships with older adults. We're also going to develop measures of success, because I'm just one of those people, and this process is, we need to go back and say, we were successful, and here's the examples of what we did to change what was going on in the county. The other thing is coming soon is going to be a healthy aging webpage on the Ramsey County site that has been in process for several years, but the public information folks got drawn into COVID, and so that just stopped. But we're working again on that, and I'm hoping to have that in place. That will be a repository of my emails going back a couple months, and some information about what healthy aging is. There will be some links on it, but it is not going to take the place of 211 or senior linkage line. Those things exist. But what we'll do is include links to the senior linkage line and things like that. And then also to the Ramsey County Senior Services Department. And they have lots and lots of resources. There was something else I was going to say that I didn't write down on my page. Oh, I wanted to show you, I don't know if you all know, but this had been in the works for some time, I guess. But during COVID, Ramsey County developed out in the community service centers. Because if we're truly going to be engaging community, then we can't expect them to come to us. So, and of course, COVID made that more urgent. So there are, let me see if I can pull it up here. Oh, let me find the right one. Oh yeah, no. Hold on. Good Lord. Good Lord. Okay, I'm not, I thought I had it pulled up. Hold on. Okay, let me see if I can do this again one more time. I'm sorry for the technology issue here. I'm gonna stop. Try again. There we go. Okay, so there are, well, I say 5. There are actually 3 that are the county's deal. One is downtown St. Paul. That has actually been shifted over to, I don't know if it's back at downtown St. Paul. It was shifted over to the Plato building during the trial, but I honestly don't know. And then there's one in Maplewood at the library, and then there is Roseville Library. So this is the page where you can see them. There are also other affiliated areas like the Sunray Library. Some of these just have career centers. But the role, okay, let me see if I can go back to that, and I'll have to read this to you, I think. So the service centers offer in-person assistance with county services. There are navigators there, and excuse me, they can help people connect with all kinds of things. Program for seniors, adults with no children, the Minnesota Family Investment Program, SNAP, food assistance, all kinds of things. So that is something the county has developed, and I think, from my view anyway, it's a great thing. So I think that is all I have. Let me go back here and stop sharing. Okay, there we go. So that's what I have. I'm going to drop the web page for the service centers. You can then link to that map that I was showing you from that page in the chat box. Oh Lord, sorry, I'm sorry. I hit Control V when I'm supposed to hit Control C and vice versa. Okay, hold on. There we go. So I think that's all I have. Are there questions or other things?
There are a few of us enough here that anybody who has a question can just go off mic and ask it. No need to use the raise hand function or anything like that. And also I will say that a number of you put your emails in. Julia has the best email sharing of information that I know of in the region.
Wow.
Although Kim at Radius Health also does a really good job. Anyway, so you can feel free to put your emails in there. I have just to start our question, the 3 groups that you've been doing, and I was just I really agree with what you're saying about letting folks, come from the bottom up and bubble up there, kind of thing. Have you know, as class is trying to do advocacy with a larger constraint of we want our member groups to generally be in agreement with what we're advocating for. It is also the case that if you're, you know, within government, there are certain, you know, you certainly can't go off, say, you know, we're going to vote for Tim Walz for governor because blah, 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 because we're, you know, government and 501c3s.
Right.
Are there areas where they have said, we really want our community to change on this, or we want the county to change on this, that they're able to use their collective wisdom and their seat at the table to advocate for things?
The networking groups are, I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about. Those are, at this point anyway, not advocacy focused. Again, I'm the facilitator. I bring people there, what people want to do. And it doesn't mean that they can't do that. It just hasn't happened at this point. In terms of the county, absolutely. I mean, the Board of Commissioners was very involved in the creation of my position. So I check in with them every couple of years and say, here's what you all created. And so that was a big change, and the county board was very involved in creating the service centers out in the community. So there are some things, and then my hope is that this age-friendly partnership, that is the focus, will be going to the board and saying, here's the things that we would really suggest to become a more age-friendly community. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Julia, this is Scott. You know, I think as I've been a part of some of the different age-friendly initiative meetings that you've had there, could you tell the group, is there some specific need that you would like to see from maybe even the people who are on the call today that would get an insight? Would you wish to invite us to attend one of your upcoming meetings, provide a link for us? So just, you know, people that could get on the call and see who are the different Ramsey County community participants are. You might get an inkling whether you have an ability to help even more or add some things to that. So if you could provide that, I think that would be good. As part of class, I do know that some of the different initiatives that, not initiatives, but age-friendly type of topics that are out there, class members, we revolve around all those topics in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
So as time goes on, if there's something you feel that class should be dedicating themselves to a little bit more than what we currently are, we'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, that's great. My current ask is that folks come to the networking meeting, certainly. I should say my ask. My offer is that people come to the networking meetings because people seem to find them useful. In fact, the last meeting we had, people said we don't want to just meet quarterly, we want to meet every other month. So I issue that invitation. And then the age-friendly group, absolutely issue an invitation to our next meeting. That group is monthly. And we are in the process of developing sort of levels of involvement, levels of commitment, so that there will be, you know, folks that are on the steering committee and folks that are a little less involved, but come to meetings and listen and things like that. So we have not yet decided on those, but I would love to have more folks there to hear what's going on and see if they think there are ways to be involved. We are certainly going to be looking for folks to spread the word, to say, hey, this is going on in the county. We're definitely going to be looking for folks to say, hey, are you connected to any group of seniors, or can we help you develop a group of seniors, or can you help us develop a group of seniors? Because the goal, of course, is empowerment here. The goal is not for the government to come in and say, here's what we think you should do, or here's this service. The goal is to say, how do we keep this advocacy going on the part of elders? Does that kind of answer your question, Scott?
Yeah, I think so. And when the second part that I was going to bring up, a couple different times today, we've heard the word, possible change. And is it more so, it's not so much change as it is looking for additions, how we can continue to increase the awareness, increase the service providers and their ability to reach out and work with seniors, rather than think about that change has to be made. Maybe change in some areas, but more of how can we become more involved and kind of add more colors to the palette of what's being offered out there in and around our communities. Would you agree with that?
Yes, both and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I think all of us who work in aging know that it's sort of like there's no wrong way to do laundry. You just pick one of your categories and you do laundry.
Right.
Not that I have any personal experience with that, not because my washer and dryer broke down or anything. So yes, absolutely. What I love about the age-friendly stuff is that it focuses on policies, strategies, and programs. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we are certainly going to be going to the board and saying, hey, we want you to spend some money on this. But we don't know yet until we get community input about what we're going to go to them and say, here's what we think you ought to support. Does it? Okay.
Scott is nodding and Taylor has her hand up.
Can't hear you,
I
Taylor.
can't hear you, Taylor.
Sorry, how about now? We good?
There you go.
Okay, just classic pandemic lines. You're on mute. I'm just wondering if you know this or not, it's fine either way. Is there any talk of when you're talking about budgeting and getting money for things like this for initiatives, is there any crossover between conversations about infrastructure and aging in place or age-friendly communities, and kind of what that means? For some context, I'm on the Planning Commission in Little Canada, and we are dying to get a sidewalk on Rice Street because it's not at all age-friendly. And so I'm just wondering if that's part of the conversation that you're having at the county level.
Absolutely. When I say transportation, I think of much broader than the buses, because walking is part of transportation. And in fact, one of the members of this team was working with, she's in Maplewood, and she was working with a group of seniors at their community center, and they were talking about the sidewalks. And they went to the city council and said, you got to do something about this. This is not okay. And they did something about the sidewalks. So there is nothing that's off the table. I think of infrastructure as not just the streets, as communication channels and things like that. But yeah, one of the things that other folks have done, other areas, is increase the time for the crosswalk. Things like that. So yes, absolutely.
And as we have at least 15 minutes left, if there's anybody who has an experience in their world where they're like, I would have loved this to have been more age friendly, or I successfully made this more age friendly. We certainly have, as Julia is so, high and mighty and not at all conversational, we can certainly, have this be a multi-way street. So I recognize a couple of folks here if they want to chime in with any observation or anything, or just kind of, for that matter, talk about what it is that your organization does. We've certainly got the time.
Well, thank you. I just want to jump in here. Thank you for that, because I am always available to hear what's going on in the community. Always, always, always. I can't facilitate any changes if I don't know what you all are seeing, and you all are on the front lines and I'm not. So I'm going to put everything, all of my contact information in the chat. My email address is really easy. It's julia.wolf, we'll have an E, at ramseycounty.us. And I want to put my phone in there, and please do not be strangers. A huge part of my job is to be out in the community connecting with people. Hasn't been the same for the last couple of years, but I am still wanting to do that. So now I'm going to turn it back over to John.
And I'm going to look at our squares, our Hollywood squares, our tic-tac-toes, and see if there's any other comments or questions or just reflections on age-friendly.
Julia, I have a, maybe you have some insight. So you had mentioned that Ramsey County is not formally getting on, at least at this point, the AARP age-friendly program, which totally makes sense. I know that state has some initiatives going on as well. I could foresee the state doing more of the "you will do" prescription coming down. Can you give us an update? Is there any of that information you're aware of?
Well, I just went to the governor's council meeting. Everyone is welcome to observe. Observers are, but we're welcome to observe. They are at the stage where they are creating a position. They went to the legislator after their research period and said, one of the things we need is a statewide aging coordinator. And the legislature funded that. So they're in the process of hiring someone. I would be shocked if the state said, you must do this. That's just my perspective. Yeah, I just would be shocked. My sense is that the goal is to provide information, to be a hub like I am at the state level. And yeah, that's it. They provided in the meeting today, they have access to some sort of basic information that I will try to find and send to Scott and John, and they can distribute that. So I don't have a more specific answer than that.
Oh, that's great.
And the Governor's Council on Age-Friendly Minnesota is accessible online, and that's where the links to the meetings are. And they aren't meeting in May, but they will be meeting in June. So if you search MN Governor's Council on Aging, I imagine you will find the page.
Great, thanks.
Yep. I suspect that council will be more involved in suggesting policy and legislation than we necessarily would be at the county level. My input with the board is, yeah, I think they'll be able to do that more at the state level than I'm able to do that at the county level.
Well, one of the things that the city and the county, the city of St. Paul and the county, Ramsey County, have done together is, and with housing, it's all about infrastructure, is saying that they're going to use a lot of their 75 million of American Rescue Plan funds to build affordable housing. And given the kind of the political landscape, usually some of that will be senior specific and some will not. And the Ramsey County has also started using they have a taxing authority, a bonding authority to do housing and redevelopment. And they've been interested and they've moved forward on that. So that's going to be another $10 million a year that the county has. And in both of those cases, they are focusing on low-income housing. And I kind of, I wonder, I know Sherry from Pioneer Manor, and I'm wondering if your position takes a look at things like senior affordable housing need or overall senior housing need, or if there is anything that say, hey, it would be great if Pioneer Manor had money for this, that, or the other improvements, to assist our senior population. So that's a little piece of information and a kind of a vague category. If anybody has anything that they'd like to say, yes, we'd love that, or yes, I see this coming. Yeah, any thoughts?
Mine or other people's?
I see Sherry's off mic.
I could say a lot about public senior housing, affordable senior housing. No, I don't have anything specific to say right now. But I'm really happy to be here to hear that actually that I'm not alone in a lot of the concerns that are going on in Ramsey County. I have buildings in Hennepin and Anoka County too. So, and I live in Washington County and have a mother in Hennepin County, all in affordable housing. So, it's refreshing to know, as sad as it is, that we're not alone in these problems, and that actually, you know, we're all fighting for the same and striving towards the same things, that we're not alone. So that's really refreshing, actually. So I'm really happy to be a part of the group, and I'm hoping that as I continue to be part of the group, that I'll have more input and more to say. So thank you so much for including me.
And, you know, if this group and other groups and my groups decided they wanted to, you know, work with a lobbyist, I would not be unhappy about that. The county has its own lobbyists, so we can't do that outside of the county's lobbying. But, you know, if all the groups in the county working on aging came together and said, hey, we want to do some lobbying, fabulous. Let me help you do that. How can I help?
I think when Taylor said something about sidewalks, something like that. So I think it's really interesting because my building in Anoka has sidewalks with really short crosswalk lights. So something like that, like us being able to sit and talk about sidewalks and crosswalk lights, that was something we were able to go to the city council about and say, can you lengthen the lights? And they did, but not enough. So now the residents are literally signing petitions and going to the council, and that's something we're able to help our residents with. But I think it's so important for us to be able to meet and gather together and talk about you know, issues like this, because you know, really, like how far can we get together, and how far can we get with our residents, and how much can our residents do, and how much can we do when we stand behind them or stand with them, and you know, how much advocacy and things like that too, because I think our residents really do have a strong, powerful voice as well, and not letting them lose their voice is so important.
And yeah, it's easy for me to forget as a very privileged person, but a huge focus of my work is addressing racial and economic and other disparities. That's a huge piece of the age-friendly partnership. Because of course, like every other oppression, it's all intersectional. So if you are over 65 and you're Black and you're disabled, then you got a whole lot of stuff going on. And how do we address those things? So that is, yeah, that's in the forefront of my mind always. And I am always listening to my partners in the community that have experiences that I don't have, and experienced oppressions that I will never experience. And the other thing is, I feel like the county and government has a responsibility to do things in the community because we've been, well, because we should, but also because we've been so harmful to so many people. And in addition to that, I don't want the county to be the provider, right? I don't want the county to come in and rescue people. That's not my interest. For just one example, upcoming healthy aging events, conferences, mini conferences, I'm going to be working with the Somali community on one. And my goal is to increase capacity in the Somali community so that I'm not the one. I can't work with every community every year. And I don't want to. I want the community to provide things like this for themselves. So one of the people on that, I'm just bringing together people who might be interested in planning And one of the people said, "Oh, you're willing to mentor someone in event planning? Sign me up. You don't need to pay me. I'm just willing to be there." Sweet. So yeah, that's my goal, is to put myself out of a job. That's not going to happen, but I would like it.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of if we had justice, fighting for injustice would not be a thing as much as it is. I am looking at, we've got 10 minutes yet here. And I just wanted to say that doing a little bit of class. We also have our quarterly, or actually it used to be quarterly networking groups, and we said, let's do them every other month. For class, our next networking group is the morning of May 11th. And that is between 8:30 and 10 a.m. And then after that, July 13th. If I was more on top of my game, I would be able to quote our website. Is it lakeareaseniors.org? Is it? I don't even know. Somebody help me out here.
Yes.
Okay.
I also want to say, Scott and I talked about this, that the county networking groups are the same day. And at first we were a little concerned, but you guys start at 7:30 in the morning. People are, you get people
8:30.
awake, and then at noon they can come to the county networking meeting.
Good. So an entire morning day of reaching out and making connections is always a good thing. Also, our next Lunch and Learn is going to be August 17th at noon, and we're going to be talking about transportation. Still haven't figured out exactly what about transportation we're going to say, but it's really clear that it's an issue that comes up time and again. Once again, if you haven't, thank you, Katie, for dropping the link in the chat. We were talking about things that you say on COVID. Oh, I'm on mute, and let me drop that link in the chat. If anybody else, once again, wants to get on Julia's email, Julia, have you hit save chat from the function so you can collect
I am not. I've been writing them down, but save
Okay.
chat would probably be more efficient.
that there are many, what did you say? There's no wrong way to do laundry?
Yeah, maybe after the meeting, you and I can talk about how to do that. I've come a long way with technology, but there's some things on Zoom I still don't know how to do.
Yeah. Well, there's some things on laundry that I still don't know how to do, and I'm 56 now. So anyway, any of the other class board members, Scott, do you have anything y'all want to say?
Well, I would say, first of all, Julia, thank you so much for joining today.
Absolutely.
The insightful topic and the conversation that you brought about was excellent. John, thank you for hosting and leading this. I would be remiss if I didn't talk to anyone who is still with us here about, there's still time to become a class member for $25. There's some really good perks that do come with that with our new website. And Kate Goebel, who is on our call here, she is our webmaster and would be happy to walk through, what it takes after you become a member. So we're going to continue to talk about this. And I think that even today's topic will be coming up again and again in our networking meetings and things that we do for class. So I wish to thank everyone for being here today.
Absolutely.
Oh, and I guess I should say, John, to be a class member, to become one, you can simply go to the class website with the link that was provided, and very easy to get signed up. And for $25, you get to be with us for the next year.
And get your events put out in our coming right up newsletter, electronic newsletter that's going to come up, as well as posted up on our website as well.
And we have Katie Everett here today, who's on our board, who is heading up that project. So If you've got some questions about that, I know we're ending it here, but you can always put a question into the class email that we have regarding the newsletter and what that means, and we'd be happy to answer that.
Thank you all for having me. Thank you for everything you're doing. I'm amazed, constantly amazed. I couldn't do it. So thank you.
Thanks, Julia. And with that, John, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Okay, Katie's got her information there. We've lost our guest star, and we're going to be coming together again on May 11th. Yeah, if there's any other questions, let me know, or we'll be signing off. 4 minutes early, 6 minutes early, 4 minutes early, 3 minutes. Katie, is your rain-clad dog at all available to send us off again?
She is here. She has lost her rain jacket, but she can definitely say goodbye. Come here, Maggie. Come here. Come here.
Always love the addition of pets to our meetings.
There we go.
All right, pets and babies.
Yep.
Pets and babies we bring to our meetings.
Yay, twinkles. All right, goodbye all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye now.